There was a time when the roar of an engine echoed louder than words, when chrome gleamed under the sun like armor, and horsepower wasn't just measured, it was felt in your chest. The year was 1967. The American muscle car war was in full swing, and at the heart of the battlefield stood a machine that wasn't just fast, it was fearless. The 1967 Pontiac GTO. It didn't just roll off the line, it arrived with purpose. An evolution of raw power and refined aggression, the GTO had already made waves since its unconventional birth in 1964. But in '67, Pontiac had one goal in mind: sharpen the spear, more muscle, more control, more soul. The GTO was no longer a rebellion, it had become a religion. Its origins can be traced back to three men who dared to challenge the rulebook: John DeLorean, Bill Collins, and Russ G. Their idea was simple: take a modest mid-size Pontiac Tempest and drop in a full-size Grand Prix 389 cubic inch V8. No boardroom approval, no committee green light, just passion, precision, and a loophole in GM's policy. That loophole would lead to the creation of what many consider the first true muscle car. They named it GTO, a badge borrowed from Ferrari wrapped in American steel. Gran Turismo Omologato, they called it. Though among gearheads, it became something else entirely: gas, tires, and oil. A joke, a mantra, a warning. By 1966, the GTO wasn't just an option package, it was a model in its own right. Sleek, menacing, and curvy with the now iconic Coke bottle silhouette. It was the car of the street, the strip, and the dream. That same year, it hit a sales peak few others could touch. But Pontiac wasn't done. Not yet. For 1967, the GTO saw subtle visual updates, but massive changes under the hood. The legendary 389 was gone, replaced by a new 400 cubic inch beast. It was a response to intensifying competition, a declaration that Pontiac still held the crown. With more torque, more displacement, and more attitude, the '67 GTO spoke softly and carried a very big stick. Gone, too, was the beloved tri-power carburetor setup, axed by GM's corporate rules. In its place, a four-barrel Rochester quadrajet that fed the new engine with refined fury. And while some mourned the loss of those three snarling carb throats, the performance gains told another story, especially when paired with the new high-output variant or the dealer-installed Ram Air package, engines that weren't just built for power, but tuned for war. Out front, the grille adopted a chain-link design, polished and aggressive. The tail end received new lenses, 8 in total, set into a revised rear panel. The emblems moved, chrome got wider, the lines sharpened. It was evolution, not revolution, but the GTO's presence remained unmistakable. Whether seen from behind or spotted in your rearview mirror, this was a machine that demanded attention. Under the surface, safety took a small but meaningful step forward. A collapsible steering column, four-way flashers, a padded dash. Proof that even in an era of bare-knuckle motoring, some thought was being given to keeping drivers alive for the next drag race. Buyers had choices, lots of them. 3 body styles allowed for personalization at nearly every level. The hardtop, sleek and popular, the convertible, open to the elements and bold in the breeze, and the post-coupe, the budget-friendly bruiser with a bit more steel in its spine. Each had its own audience. Each added its own voice to the GTO legend. And then there were the engine options. The base 400 V8 roared with 335 horsepower, more than enough to smoke tires and raise eyebrows. A low-compression 2-barrel version, nicknamed the Economy engine, offered 265 horsepower for those who valued mileage over mayhem. But the real stars were the HO and Ram Air variants. Both boasted 360 horsepower on paper. Off the record, they packed more, much more. The Ram Air, with its functional hood scoops and stiffer valve springs, made sure that air wasn't the only thing being sucked in fast. These weren't grocery getters. They were boulevard bullies. Transmissions varied just as widely. The base 3-speed was joined by 2 flavors of 4-speed manuals, wide and close ratio, both paired with Hurst shifters. Automatic fans weren't left out either. The new Turbo Hydra-Matic TH400 offered silky shifts and muscle-grade durability, especially when paired with the dual-gate shifter that let drivers choose between lazy cruising or manual gear banging. It was the best of both worlds, refinement and rawness in the same cockpit. But what's muscle without control? Pontiac offered differential options too, including the legendary Safe T-Track Limited Slip. Choose your ratio, 3.90, 4.11, or even 4.33 if you were serious. You didn't just drive a GTO, you dialed it in. Wheels mattered, too. 14-inch Rally I wheels were standard, but a new 5-spoke design, Rally 2, arrived with the style and substance muscle car lovers craved, especially if you'd opted for the front disc brakes, which added both stopping power and show car presence behind the spokes. Inside, the GTO struck a delicate balance between performance and polish. Wood grain vinyl replaced real wood, but nobody seemed to mind. Bucket seats came standard, though bench seats remained an option for those who preferred sliding across the cabin in style. The shifter could be topped with walnut. The carpet matched the trim. Power windows, custom steering wheels, and hood-mounted tacks were all on the table. It wasn't just a car, it was your car, your way. And if the interior didn't set your heart racing, the colors surely did. From regimental red to mariner turquoise, Pontiac's paint palette in '67 read like a box of high-octane Crayolas. And the convertibles? You could choose a top in black, ivory blue, turquoise, or cream. Even standing still, the GTO screamed in motion. Out on the pavement, the GTO was a revelation. Motor Trend clocked it at 0 to 60 in 6.6 seconds. The quarter mile? A brisk 14.66. But other tests pushed those numbers even lower. Some claimed sub-5-second launches. Some called them flukes. Others called them Bobcat kits, dealer-installed performance mods that made fast cars even faster. The truth? Somewhere between fact and folklore, just how the GTO liked it. Competition was fierce in '67. The Chevelle SS 396, the Mustang GT, and the brand-new Camaro all wanted a piece of Pontiac's throne. The 442 was lurking. The Charger was bulking up. But the GTO had history. It had swagger. It had muscle baked into every panel. Today, the 1967 GTO sits among legends, and it's priced like one. Project cars can still be had for under $20,000. But a fully restored, numbers-matching convertible with Ram Air? That'll cost you 6 figures, and then some. Some recent sales have pushed well past $200,000. Rarity, originality, and documentation all factor in. Mileage, options, color combos, they matter. The right GTO in the right condition can fetch eye-watering sums. But ask any owner. They'll tell you it's worth every penny. Of course, owning one isn't without challenges. Water pumps leak, old wiring misbehaves, drum brakes fade, fuel systems clog, and rust, it creeps. But for those willing to wrench, or pay someone who can, the rewards far outweigh the struggles. Parts are out there, so are the people. Online forums, car shows, and restoration shops all keep the GTO flame alive. Whether you're chasing concours trophies or just want to relive your youth, the GTO has a place for you. Because in the end, the GTO wasn't just a car, it was a movement. A muscle-bound declaration that driving should be fun, fast, and full of life. In 1967, Pontiac didn't just build another car, they bottled an era. And today, every time a 400 V8 roars to life, that era lives on. The 1967 GTO wasn't the beginning, it wasn't the end, but it was, and remains, the moment when muscle met maturity and America fell in love.